Good morning. I'm going to teach you your lesson for math. This is for the page. You also have two videos that you can view to that talk about the one is on the basics of the clock and the other is on the telling time to the hour and half hour. You can watch the whole video through, um, but we're only going to be telling time to the hour today on our lesson page, which is pages 373 and 374. So I'm going to share the screen with you, and hopefully this will show me the pages. Yay, it did. Okay. This is different than I usually show you because I'm going to make use of the drawing feature. This is in a photo application, a photo app, and I wanted to draw on the page like I normally do. Let's use pink. Maybe that'll show up well. Okay, so it says on your page, read the time on each clock as 7 o'clock. This is an analog clock. Both your videos mention that. An analog clock shows the hands. Okay, let me see if I can draw over here. Nope, it's not going to let me. There we go. We'll try it here. Analog is A-N-A-L-O-G. Look at how neatly Miss Gibson can write. That's not the best I can write. But that's pretty good for using a mouse pad on a laptop. So just think about that when you guys are doing your handwriting. Miss Gibson can write pretty neatly with her finger on a mouse pad, then you guys can do a really good job using a pencil and paper, right? Right. Okay. Analog clock has the hands. This is the minute hand in blue. It tells what the minutes are. Each of these little lines, as the video told you, that go around the clock are the minute lines. And then you see the numbers. When the minute hand is on each of these numbers, you count by fives. So 1 is equal to 5, 2 to 10, 3 equals 15, 4 equals 20, 5 is 25, 6 is 30, 7 35, 8 is 40, 9 is 45, 10 is 50, 11 is 55, and we get back to 12, which is 60 minutes having passed. We just never say 60. So this would never be 7:60. This would be 7:00. Okay. Then we have the red hand, which is the hour hand, and that points to the number that the hour is. In this case, it's pointing to 7. So we are in the 7 o'clock hour. As your video said, if it points between the 7 and the 8, you are still in the 7 o'clock hour. If it's almost touching the 8 but hasn't reached that little line yet, you are still in the 7 o'clock hour. It's not until it hit the red hand is on the 8 and the blue hand is on the 12 has it now changed to a different hour, in that case, the 8 o'clock hour. Over here we have a digital clock. Digital, let me erase analog, and I'll spell out digital. It only gives me so much room, unfortunately. A digital clock, D I T, whoops, I don't want T, I want a G. So let me erase this T and go back to pink. D-I-G-I-T-A-L. Okay, that says digital. A digital clock does not have hands, it just has digits. In this case, numbers being referred to as digits. And then there's a colon. This is called a colon. Let me erase that digital part and write the word. My eyes are not erasing. And write the word colon. C O L O N. Colon is a type of punctuation mark. Okay, that's why I've been trying to teach you guys to say punctuation mark rather than sentences end in a period. Sentences end in a punctuation mark because there's different forms of punctuation marks. Could be a period, question mark, or exclamation point. In between, in the middle of sentences, we have things like commas and colons. There's a comma after the word colon. Here's a colon. And here's a semicolon, has the dot and a comma. And of course, you guys all learned about apostrophes. Here's an apostrophe right there between the O and the C in o'clock. Okay, an apostrophe is kind of like an air comma, just don't call it that. And it is to separate letters in a word when you are missing some letters. Okay, so o'clock means of the clock. So you're missing the F in of and the A. Okay, so let's erase these. And let's write of the and clock. Of the clock is just another way of saying that the time is on the hour. We aren't showing any minutes. We are on the hour of the clock. Okay, of the clock or o'clock. The apostrophe takes the place of the F and of and the word the. Okay. All right, let's go ahead to our math lesson. It says write the time in two ways. So we look at the clock here and we see both hands are pointing to the 12. That means it's 60 minutes, it's of the clock. So when we look at the minute hand and it's on the 12, that means o'clock or of the clock. And when we see the hour hand, the red hand here, is pointing to the 12 as well. We are in the 12 o'clock hour. So we're going to trace the 1 and the 2 and write it in word form. And then we're going to trace the digital form of it. And let's not forget to put in our colon. And then remember to trace the zeros. So this is 3 ways to write, actually, 3 ways to write the hour. 12 o'clock on the analog clock. They wrote that for you. 12 o'clock in words and 12 o'clock digitally. So you're going to finish this page. I'm going to erase that. I'm going to finish this page, all except for number 7. You do not have to answer number 7. It would be good if you could discuss it with your parents or a sibling, whoever's helping you with this assignment. Where are the minute and hour hands on a clock when it is 2 o'clock? But you do not need to show that to me on this paper or in any work. So please complete numbers 1 through 6 on page 373. And then we're going to go to page 374. It says trace the hands on the clock. Okay, notice they're dotted, so we're going to trace the, oops, let me put up my, this is a different page, so I need to put up my drawing. nice and thin, and make it red this time. Okay, so I'm going to trace the hands carefully and neatly. Notice when I trace the 12, the minute hand, it goes through the minute number, in this case the 12. But when I trace the hour hand, it stops short of touching the hour, in this case 4 o'clock. Okay, so make sure the minute hand is your long hand and it goes through the number, and the hour hand, your short hand, stops short of touching the number. It should not touch the number at all. And so that's one way to write 4 o'clock. Now we have a second way to write 4 o'clock by filling in and tracing over the 4, and there's the word o'clock. And finally, we're going to write it digitally by tracing the 4, tracing your colon, and tracing the 2 zeros. Again, bear with Mrs. Gibson because it's not easy to manipulate this, especially when you're trying to trace this mouse pad and arrow. Then you're going to finish with 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13, doing the same thing. Make sure you trace your clock hands. Make sure you write in the analog time in words. You're just going to put the number in. Make sure you write it digitally, adding the 2 zeros at the end. Then we have problem solving. It says solve. Use a problem solving strategy. The town clock chimes 2 times at 2 o'clock and 3 times at 3 o'clock. How many times will it chime at 6 o'clock? So we need to underline our important information. 2 times at 2 o'clock and 3 times at 3 o'clock. So how many times do you think it's going to chime at 6 o'clock? 2 at 2 o'clock, 3 at 3 o'clock. It should chime how many times at 6 o'clock? If you said 6, you are correct. Notice the pattern. 2 times at 2 o'clock, 3 times at 3 o'clock, so 6 times at 6 o'clock. Number 15. On the town clock, the minute hand is on the 12. The hour hand is on the 2. What time does the town clock show? Okay, so let's draw. If you don't have a clock, let's draw it. And so you'd have 12. Not going to be easy for me to draw it. Actually, I might just do it here. You can draw it if you want, but I'm going to use this as my model because it's going to be very tedious drawing, and then I'll just erase it so that we can do that. And you can do the same if you want. If you want to model it to figure it out, you can use this clock right here. Just make sure you erase it when you are finished because you're going to have to draw the hands for 6 o'clock down here. Okay, so on the town clock, the minute hand is at the 12. The minute hand, we're going to draw up through the 12. Okay, that's the long hand, and it goes through the number it's pointing at. And the hour hand is on the 2. Okay, so we know this is 1, so this is going to be 2. So I'm going to go up to the 2, but I'm going to stop short. I'm not going to touch the 2 or go through the 2. So if it's looking like this, it must be what time? We're going to underline our important information. Minute hand is on the 12. Hour hand is on the 2. Okay, I've drawn it for you. You figure out the time and put the correct time in there. Now I'm going to erase this so that we can do the challenge. Back to my red marker. Challenge. Write the numbers missing from the clock. I just did one for you. See if you can remember what it was and put it in. So for this number, you would write it here. For this number, here. This number goes here. And this number goes here. That's what you write. You've got clocks all over the page that you can use to help you figure out which numbers go where. Number 17 says draw 6 o'clock. So you're going to use your minute hand like I did over here, and you're going to use your hour hand and draw it correctly. Remember, the minute hand does not, that the minute hand does go through the number. The hour hand does not go through the number and does not even touch the number. Okay, and that is your video lesson. Good luck on that. I'm sure you guys will do fine. Remember, we did this in our morning meetings for quite a while. Hopefully you remember at least some of what we learned in the morning meetings.